Welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Here's your host, the Bitcoin Boomer himself, Gary Leland.
And welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland, and welcome to the show. This is our fourth season. I don't even know how long that's been since we've been doing the show, because some seasons went over more than a year. We weren't very accurate to begin with. I need to have our great producer, Stephanie, look that up and see when episode 1 was, so we can have an anniversary date and have maybe a big anniversary. Maybe like our 5th or 6th year, I don't know. What do you think of that, Steph?
I think we can have a party any day, so
we can just claim a date.
Pick, what is the number that's important in Bitcoin? 21 million? So something.
So they're going to go for 21 years. I don't know if we're going to be able to get away with that.
No, I mean like pick a day that's the 21st that happens to be on a day where you record.
And it just happens to be the 21st that we did the first show was on the 21st.
Yeah.
March 21st, 2021. Oh, that's not far enough back. Hey.
That's okay.
Getting more on a serious note, you looked at today's guest is Monika Bravo, a great artist, or as I like to say, artist extraordinaire.
Yeah.
What did you think of Monika's bio when you looked it over?
I loved the colors that Monika used in the website. And then her bio said that she's a polymath, which I had to look up because I know polyglot.
What is a polymath? What did you find out?
So just like polyglot is the person knows many languages, they have an affinity for learning and mastering them. Polymath is a mastery or knowledge of many things. Oh. It's like kind of like she's a multi-disciplinary artist, so that goes along with your many knowledge of many things.
And so the word is multi?
It's polymath.
Polymath. So I'm probably a polymath if we're going to get down to that.
Yeah. At first I was like, is it to do with math? I don't think it's math. And it wasn't math. It was just many things.
Polymath. I'm going to have to remember that.
Yeah.
But, well, thank you for that information. You taught me something today. But even though I'm an old boomer, I still can learn something every day,
yeah,
right?
Everyone can learn.
Hey, everybody. Monika is going to be on the show. She's a great guest and someone I consider a friend. You're going to enjoy this episode. Not only do we talk about Bitcoin, which we always do, I've got questions about her art. She does huge art, like would be in Grand Central Station. If you walk down and you see a piece of art that's the whole wall, that could be her art. I mean, this gal is so talented and such a lovely person to talk with. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about her personally. We're going to talk about her art. We're going to cover a lot of things in this show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this commercial with our guest, Monika Bravo. And we'll find out why her name's Monika Bravo. So stay tuned. Many of you won't know that, even if you know her. See you in a minute. And welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland, affectionately known as the Bitcoin Boomer. And as I said, this is the Bitcoin Boomer Show, but this show is not titled the Bitcoin Boomer Show because it's for boomers. This show's for anybody who's interested in learning about Bitcoin, whether you're a beginner or an advanced Bitcoiner. But the show is called the Bitcoin Boomer Show because I'm a boomer and I like Bitcoin, so I'm the Bitcoin Boomer, and this is the Bitcoin Boomer Show. So that's how that works. Before we get going, I do want to recommend that you subscribe to this show. Hit the little button wherever it's at on the screen and subscribe to make sure you get future content and keep up to date with what we're doing. Our goal, like I said, is just to teach you about Bitcoin, and what we do is we bring on Bitcoiners from basically all over the planet. Today we have a Bitcoiner, I believe, from Southeast United States. We have with us someone who is not only a Bitcoiner, they're an artist, they're a friend of mine. I've gone ziplining with them. Monika Bravo. Monika, welcome to the show.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And I love your Rolling Stones hat.
You like my what?
Your Rolling Stones hat.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun hat because it has the Rolling Stones, but then it says, "I love you very much, Leonard Cohen." So it's it's like people that I really like. So I like that.
Very good. Well, before we get going too far into this, give everybody a brief, a short bio on who is Monika Bravo.
Okay, so I was born in Bogota, Colombia, South America. That's 60 years ago. And actually today is my United States birthday. I arrived to the United States of America 30 years ago today. I came here because I was looking for a less corrupted country. Turned out to a hoax. And I came here to be an artist. So I moved to New York and I became an artist there. And I lived there for 27 years. I specialize in what is called public art commissions. So my clients is the government. In a way, I have many pieces around the United States, airports, subway stations, hospitals, universities, high schools, all kind of stuff that is produced by a program is called the 1% per art program. So I've been doing that for a while, and I love it because I don't have to use the art market. I don't have a middleman. I actually left the art market when I realized that they were just taking a lot of my cut of my time, and they were not really delivering. So that's what I do. And I moved here to Miami during the pandemic, running away from the matrix. And I will say that the last 4 years is when I understood what freedom was. And that's where I've been, really devoted to study how to stand for my rights.
Well, your art is fantastic. And just to make sure people understand, your art pieces are like really big. I mean, most of them, they're in airports and terminals. And I mean, we're not talking little things like this. We're talking mass size art for the most part, right?
Yes, indeed. Actually, it's a long process because I actually have to apply for the job, or I'm going to be nominated, and I do have to present proposals. And then I have to go in front of a jury and make that proposal and speak about it, have an idea behind. And then I will have to hire big fabricators. They usually in Europe. I work a lot of stuff with mosaic and glass as well. So it's all about like producing these pieces very large that they're going to be there forever. They're commissioned. They're like the Sistine Chapel in Rome, which was commissioned. So I like doing this is because a lot of the art that we see these days, when you make it and you give it to somebody else, this person, I don't even know if they're going to take care of it. And that's a pity because there's a lot of work involved. So yes, they're huge. And I love working public art because I really think that I understand the needs of communities, and I love to listen to what they need. So then I can come back here and do my crazy stuff like mixing.
Have you thought about in your artwork hiding in plain sight little Bitcoin tidbits every once in a while, so no one would know it unless they were a Bitcoiner? They go, that looks like a reflection of a Bitcoin in that window on that skyscraper.
I have a whole thing about, because I come to Bitcoin as an artist established already. So I don't like, and my work, and, I don't want to diminish anybody who's putting a B on a work. By all means, people do whatever they have to do with their creativity. But for me, it's more like going beyond the obvious. The last piece that you're showing there, that is at the Grand Central Terminal, what the idea behind is actually praxeology and the study of like how we can contribute voluntarily in civilization by becoming based or becoming free. And so I speak about the humanity without showing any humans by what we are able to build when we are in an open market society. So, for instance, the idea of New York is this incredible city that it was built because it was in an open market society and people were contributing. But right now, we're not going to talk about what's going on there right now. So I took images of buildings that they were never constructed. They were like in the design process, and I believe that this is like the city of our dreams. So in a way, I speak about Bitcoin without speaking about Bitcoin, because I want people to actually get immersed in a space. And if they find out a little bit what I have behind, they could get surprised. So that's how I do it. Nevertheless, I've been thinking about a piece that I produced in 2009, actually, from all the dates. That is a mirror, and it has some sentences that speak about time. And I was thinking, if I ever going to bring some artwork to conferences, I'm going to bring that, because it's a mirror where you see yourself in the mirror, and then you're speaking about time. And for instance, the value of time. We know that the most valuable thing that we have on earth is our time, and because it is scarce, the same as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is scarce because it's valuable because it's scarce. So I think about probably making art that is very insightful, that is more abstract, and it can lead you to a place where I can mesmerize you, but then you go inside and you find your own way. So that's the kind of work that I do. That's why I work more with abstraction than with figurative art.
I got you. I got you. Now, your site, in case anyone wants to look at your website and see some of your artwork or a good bit of your artwork, is studioofendlessideas.com. So I want to make sure everybody knows about that. Check it out. It's amazing stuff on our website. Monika is so talented. And to be able to plan out those big pieces of art, and you have to not only do you have to plan out and do all the stuff, you have to win the contest, that they go, oh, this is the best out of all these people who are submitting bids for this. Because it's not like they just go, hey, Monika, come down here to Grand Central Station and do us a real quick thing here. It's competitive, I'm sure, to get the piece of art.
Yeah, there's no draw me a picture in a napkin kind of thing. When you're in a restaurant, it's like, oh, I have an idea. Can you just draw it out here? This is like a long process. Where I actually do a lot of research and I investigate. I love to have workshops done within the space so I can ask people who are going to be living in the space or commuting in the space to see, what is it that, not what they want exactly, but, what are their experiences? And I bring back, come back and put that. And then another level is when you have to actually, you're giving a very big budget. So you have to also know a little bit about business and not, you can get $1 million and then go spend it the next day on Bitcoin. But no, you can't do that. So you basically have to administer that. You have to have a very good people around you who are helping you to produce. And then it's how you communicate your ideas to the fabricator. They're going to be conveying your vision. So if you don't know how to interpret that, how to speak up, they will probably come up with something that you don't want. So you also have to be very firm. And I think that not a lot of artists want to go through that process because artists want to be free. I also want to be free, but I have learned the language of how to get what I want and convey it.
Okay, what is, I saw on your site, you describe yourself as a multi-disciplinary artist. What does that mean?
It means that I can use many mediums, let's say there are many disciplines. So when I started as a photographer, black and white photographer for most things. And then when I moved to New York, I didn't want to be a photographer. I was known already in my country and in Europe as a photographer. I was doing a lot of portraits, but I just didn't want that idea of people understanding who I was. I wanted something new. So I went back to school for the visa. And I didn't tell a single soul that I knew how to take pictures, that I had been making and living in Europe for 8 years, nothing. Although I did get my visa with a lawyer because of that pass, but I didn't tell anybody. And so there was a room in the school in New York with some videotapes, machines. And I just thought, why don't I just start videotaping? So I bought myself a little camera and I started making videos and come back to school and showing the videos. And
we're going to come right back to that after this word from our sponsor, Monika. So hold on to that. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I do want to recommend and ask that you please share this show with your friends. We're trying to grow the show, and this is information, let me rephrase it, information about Bitcoin needs to be spread and learned by everybody. So please share this show with anyone you think might be interested. Now today we have Monika Bravo. Monika, welcome back to the show. We were talking about multidisciplinary art when I so rudely cut you off. So please continue the conversation there real quick. If you had anything else you wanted to add.
I don't remember where I got cut off, but in a way, I have been able to tap into very different disciplines to really convey my message. So whether it's photography or animation or video or sculpture, but I don't like the things like sculpture or mosaic. I don't make them. So I learned also how to hire people to fabricate my ideas. When it's photo and animation, I do it myself with a set of people, but other things I learned how to also delegate, because I think you can grow a lot when you can trust other people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer in delegating, for sure. Tell me, how did you find out about Bitcoin? What was your orange pill moment?
So it was interesting because I heard about it 2013 and 14 by a very good friend of mine, and she said you should get into it. But at that time in my life, it didn't resonate because I was trying to deal with other issues like trying to get a divorce or trying to get out of the system or something like that. But I kind of put it over here, but I didn't dismiss it, but I didn't do anything about it. And I have this kind of personality that once I get in it, I go all the way. So I didn't have the time for that. So a few years passed by. I knew people were making money. People were also losing money. Like, it was the whole thing, before 2018, 19. So then I read an article by Breedlove. He was writing on Medium about time and about the number 0. And I completely got into it. So in a way, he introduced me to it from the philosophical part. And I really always look at things at a very philosophical level. But I kind of left it there. Then a friend came. He's a Bitcoiner. He says, give me your phone. He downloads me, I don't know which app, one of those exchanges that we don't want to use anymore. And I just bought some Bitcoin and I saw it kind of grow, but I didn't understand it. And so it frightened me when I realized that this thing was like a magic thing. And I thought, there's nothing more dangerous than to playing with money. If you don't understand, literally, like, money doesn't grow on trees. I know that because I work for what I do, and I love the idea of having value. But if you don't know how it works, so that's when I started looking for somebody who will teach me. I listened to a lot of podcasts, but then I found somebody, a woman in England. Her name is Tansy, and she was giving workshops for women. So I actually went and worked with her. Online for like 3-4 months. Interrupting the class every 5 minutes, asking questions. By the time I finished, I knew that I was already orange-pilled. She was shilling a little bit of crypto, and that's when I said, I can't do this. I have to go maximalist. And so I started reading, obviously, Saifedean's Bitcoin Standard, Fiat Standard. I did like that. And last year, I decided to make a step and start volunteering. So I volunteered at the Bitcoin conference here in Miami, and it was a beautiful experience. And that's when I started signing up for, Pacific Bitcoin, for Unconfiscatable, which is where, I met you in LA. And, I went to the others, and the last one I think I did was in Dallas with you. So I realized that putting myself in the system, it was going to teach me another ways to relate to Bitcoin other than just being the outsider, not knowing about it. I needed to be surrounded in the environment so I can ask questions, I can be impregnated by it. But I was totally taken by it. Like by 2021, 22, I was already there, but I was taking my steps to be like, okay, what can I do in this space? Because I already done enough here. I want to come in, but I have to observe. So that's why I did the whole volunteering thing, because this is the best way to learn. Also, it's a lovely way to be humble and give back to the community.
Well, I remember we did meet in LA, but we didn't really get to know anyone until you started giving me Spanish lessons in Vegas. I think is when we really got to. No, it was in LA you started giving me Spanish lessons. That's right. Jim was our driver. That's right. I got him backwards there. That was a fun weekend between me, you, Jim, and Mel and Tone. We had quite the adventure going on in LA at Pacific Bitcoin Conference there. I did notice on your site something I wasn't familiar with. You have on there a category called Bitcoin Study Group. What is that?
Yes. So what I do is I've been talking about learning and educating, and education is very important because I think that, and I don't like to use the word orange pill. This is personal because I think that orange pill is you tell somebody in a dinner, you should buy Bitcoin, something like that. But I think that you really get completely in it when you understand what it means. And I come from a family of educators. So I was taught to teach people other things that I know. And so I started creating these study groups. I do have study groups on other subjects, but I figure what is the best way to actually tell my friends in Colombia, especially women in South America, that they can be free from their husband's money and they can actually retire on Bitcoin instead of that, whatever nonsense that they're putting the money. And so I basically opened up a year and a half ago to my friends and I said, who has 10 hours to give to themselves? Can you invest 10 hours? Pay me a fee, very small fee. I charge very little because what I want to do is them to get in touch with themselves. And so I went and I didn't want to create the course, and I looked for something that it was easy and well done. And I found Mi Primer Bitcoin from El Salvador, my first Bitcoin. The curriculum is amazing. It's open source. So I just took it and I kind of made it colorful my way, and I was very successful educating certain group of people, including younger people like my nephew, his friends, and stuff like that. So I'm very interested in helping people to get to the other side with their intellect, like ask questions and go further, not just give me your app. I mean, it works for some people, but for me, education is vital.
Yeah. Well, education is. I think the real issue with many new Bitcoiners is they don't understand what Bitcoin is and what the purpose of it is or anything about it. They just are going, oh, this Bitcoin's going up, I need to get some. And someone's talked them into that from a financial move, and then they buy some Bitcoin, and of course it's going to drop. It seems like it drops almost every time I buy it. It like follows me and goes, oh, Gary bought some Bitcoin, we got to drop 5%. So it drops, and then they get scared because they don't understand Bitcoin, especially when, we have a bear market. They've never gone through a bear market, so they sell it. Then inevitably it goes back up. They go, well, I lost all this money. Well, they lost it because they sold it during the bear market or when it had a temporary drop because they didn't understand it. And now they're all mad and they're embarrassed and they don't want to get back in and they've lost money. So I've quit trying to orange pill people, personally, because I feel bad for them when they go, oh, I sold it during the dip, or I was too old of a boomer to figure out how to secure it properly, or whatever. And so I figure it's better if they have some questions, I'll answer it, but I'm just not going to, like when you're a new Bitcoiner, you know how every Bitcoiner is. They're like, really, oh man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So I've quit doing that personally. That's just my feelings on it.
Yeah, I think there's a point to that. I like the idea when I ask them that if they have time to invest on them. So because the idea of investment, it's not only money, but you can invest time, which ends up being money. And so I'm very interested in the idea of value. So another thing that I did is I started studying with Seyfeddian Austrian economics. So I've done the whole 9-month seminar. I'm still there. It was the most valuable thing that I've done for myself in the last year and a half. I really understood that, and I really feel, and I do say this sincerely to every Bitcoin, if you really want to understand the value of Bitcoin, one should go around and study a little bit of the principles of economics according to the Austrian school. It's just so valuable. And so it gave me this, like a baseline. So if I want to talk about money, I can talk about it knowing what I'm talking about, not speculation. So another level that I did is I decided to start studying with a friend. He knows how to read charts, and I never tried in my life. I'm not going to do that, but I know how to read charts, financial charts. And so I'm never nervous about the price. I even know where the price is going to go, and I do buy the dip according to my knowledge. And it's pretty good to know these things, not to speculate. I hate speculating, but to complement my knowledge about what Bitcoin is, because at the very end, when you see a chart, you're just looking at time moving, and the price is just this equilibrium that we have to find between the supply and the demand, and it's always changing. It's never still.
That's correct. And we're going to go to a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Monika Bravo and more Bitcoin Talk. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Today's guest is Monika Bravo, artist extraordinaire. Please check out her website, studioofendlessideas.com. She's a great talent, someone I consider a friend and a comrade in arms when it comes to Bitcoin. But, you mentioned in that last segment that you took Seyfeddian Ammous's course, which is Safe is, I just wanted to mention his name and his book, The Bitcoin Standard, because I think that if anyone is interested in really going down the rabbit hole or really finding out about Bitcoin, they need to know more than just what Bitcoin is. They need to also know what money is. And I think he's done a great job of running you through what money is, the history of money, what happened to money, how money got broken, and how Bitcoin can save money. That's my feelings on this book. So I don't think this would be fair to the listeners not to make sure they know to check out the book, The Bitcoin Standard, which I know you've read.
Yeah, and not only that book, but the whole trilogy and what he's doing. He also has like he opened up the Scythe House, which is a book publishing company where he's also supporting like Parker Lewis and Lit Allen. It's there. So in a way, I think that he's such a great educator because he really offers a way for people who want to understand what money is and how, as he's money is broken. And not only money, but the whole system, medicine, food industry, like everything is kind of like in an awful place because of the Federal Reserve and this standard scam. So in a way, I recommend the theology, and I think the way he did it is great because you start with Bitcoin, like, oh, I want to know what that is, and then you start understanding with the fiat standard that, oh, this is not working because of that. And then when you know that there's nothing working, you say, so now what? And then he presents you, the principles, which is the base of what we need to do for renew our civilization based on the Austrian school. Mises, Rothbard, Hoppe, all these people, great work. So I'm totally down that rabbit hole. I'm studying a lot, reading a lot. I only read right now Austrian economics. And who knew? I would have never thought I will become this nerdy, but I love it. Just love it.
That is so funny that you say that. First of all, Safe has 3 books. I've read all 3 of them. Then Parker Lewis, he was on the show not too long ago. I've read his books, and I'm on Lynn's book right now. And it's really kind of weird when I talk to someone myself, and they go, "Oh, have you read this? Do you read?" And I said, "Well, I listened to audiobooks because I can do it in the car or wherever I'm at." And they go, "Oh, have you read?" And they'll name something that I have no idea what it is, nor do I care. And they go, "Well, what do you read? You haven't read anything or even heard of it." And I said, "Well, I read all books I'll just say about finance. I don't want to say about Bitcoin because then that opens up a whole thing. So I just say I read a lot of finance books." And they're like, "Oh," because it sounds kind of boring to them. But once you understand money, what money is and what Bitcoin is and the world between it, it's not boring at all. And it's weird how that happens. I would have never thought I would have listened to, I guess I'm like on my 70th book about finance. I would have never thought I'd listen to that many books about finance. And but here I am. I'm reading another one today, and I have another one I bought last week I'm waiting to go to.
I'm writing a book. I've just finished it, and it was not going to have any Bitcoin in it when I started the book. It was a process of my last 10 years of like me finding out like who I was, like when I arrived to New York, and then how I became programmed by the system, and then how I realized that I had to get out of it, but I didn't know how to. I just like, you're so programmed when you're there. And so I started writing, and then obviously Bitcoin overtook my life, and I started slowly writing about how I think that value is the most important thing, how, I'm just writing about Bitcoin. And so I just finished it. I just got the first copy from the printer today. It's a very beautiful book. It has a lot of illustrations, and it does talk about Bitcoin, Austrian economics, and it talks about how you can empower yourself through your own journey. And I say this thing: Bitcoin meets you at the place where you're at, but you have to take human action to actually be able to go beyond. So it is required, like Bitcoin is not going to fix things alone if you do not make a choice. So that's why I think that Bitcoin, that I wrote in the book, that's the experience.
Well, I can't wait for that to come out. So congratulations on that. I've written a book with Jimmy Song and 7 other people, 7 of us, Bitcoin and the American Dream. So I have written a Bitcoin book, I guess, or I participated in writing since there were 8 of us who wrote this book. But I have started a Bitcoin book of my own, and I made it to like chapter 5, and it's been 5 years now, and I haven't gone to chapter 6. So I need to revisit that probably and go back through everything I wrote, because a lot of stuff's probably changed or there's new information. And I've written a children's book that I need to go back and revisit. I've written books, I just don't have them. But I've never bothered to go to the next step on Bitcoin. Hey, I want to ask you a question I ask everybody. According to Monika Bravo, what is Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin gives me the opportunity to do the thing that I value the most. It's freedom. That's the thing that I value the most in my life. Freedom. I want to be free to say, to act, to go, to not do, this is the most important thing. So Bitcoin has become this equivalent that if I understand and I want my freedom, I have to understand that financial freedom is very important. But then once I get into to Bitcoin as a financial part, then it leads me, that's why I call it like a state of consciousness, to other levels. Food, I became a complete carnivore as well. I was already a carnivore, but just reading about it was like, I'm not even going to have a lettuce anymore or any broccoli. And so it has opened up an area of my life where I can go deeper into the idea of what it means to be free. So Bitcoin for me is freedom. Absolute 100% freedom. Only that we're not living in that kind of freedom in this country, but we can go back and stand up for our rights. And that's another step of things that I'm studying right now, the language of how to stand up for my rights.
Have you been to El Salvador?
Well, I'm going to go in a month and a half, in 2 months exactly. I recently got invited as a speaker for the conference called Adopting Bitcoin. And it was through a friend, another Bitcoiner. She introduced me, and it's funny because all these things are happening, and I wanted them to happen, but I just didn't know how. And I just made a wish. I'm like a little girl with a wishing wand, and I said, I hope that one day I can speak about my experience on Bitcoin. And then they asked me to write a proposal, and I did. So I'm going to be, debuting my speaker with a keynote in El Salvador, from all places. So I'm excited. I have not been there yet, and I want to go and be there.
The reason I ask is, we're talking about how Bitcoin saves the planet, and that country went from a terrible economy to now their self-sustaining economy that doesn't need to get money from outside sources like the International Monetary Fund, all because basically they started buying Bitcoin. Turned the whole country around, and many stores there accept Bitcoin. It's an accepted currency. So I was curious if you had been there to see what your thoughts on how freedom has been affected there by Bitcoin.
I have not been there, but I've read a lot, and I'm very interested in two places in South America that they're slightly different, but they're really, one is Argentina. We have Javier Milei, that he's a completely Austrian economics. His decisions are different, but he's actually closing down a lot of government, and it seems to be working, with inflation and all that. Let's see what happens with other part of the ideas that he has. But President Bukele, I have to say that he's amazing because he, along the fact that he adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender, he also has this vision about removing what caused a lot of problems in El Salvador, was violence. And I know that for Americans, sometimes it's very difficult to understand his ways. But I come from a country where our violence is because of the drugs. We have like narco violence. And so I understand sometimes you have to be very strict about, what to do. So I've been reading a lot about what he does. I'm always reading things in Spanish. When he speaks publicly, I listen to what he has to say. So I'm very, I understand a lot what he's trying to do. Nothing is perfect, but Bitcoin is the only way that we can get out of inflation and start living, with a system of values that are completely different. There are more towards family, innovation, collaboration, having fun, instead of like trying to see how we're going to scam our neighbor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm also a big favor of Milei. I need to see him get on the Bitcoin train, though, but he's turned that country around without a doubt. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Gary Leland here. Today's guest is Monika Bravo, artist extraordinaire. Now, Monika, I was asking you about El Salvador. I'm going to El Salvador for the first time in January to go to Max and Stacy's golf tournament. So I have not been either. So when you go, if you do anything super exciting outside of the conference that you think I need to make sure and do, let me know. Because I'm going to go like 3 or 4 days early and spend it being a tourist and go to the volcano and go do all these, go to the Mayan ruins. I'm going to try to do as much as I can. So if you run into anything that you're taking to you and go, oh my gosh, this was the best part of the trip, let me know about that.
I'll let you know, we did that zip line, crazy zip line in Vegas, because it was you who induced the whole people to do that.
They have a zip line there that you ride a bicycle down. So that's something I'm going to do. So you get on these bicycles and you ride bicycles over this zip line. So that looks pretty cool to me. So if you're looking for something, check out, if you like zip lines, check out the bicycle zip line. I don't know where it is, but it's within a half an hour of San Salvador. So, hey, I also noticed on your site, though, that you have been using ZapRight for payments, for Bitcoin payments. Now last week we had Will Cole on the show talking about ZapRight. We had Parker Lewis on maybe 2 months ago talking about it. How has ZapRight been working for you? I've been real happy with it at BitBlock Boom.
Very happy, because at the beginning, I was like, it was an effort to try to tell people that you can pay like that. And then I was like issuing the invoice, and it was just such a hassle. Like people ended up going like, oh, can I just give you the credit card? And I was like, oh God, what? So I was almost praying for it. So when it came out, I'm like, I'm signing up. And I basically, I do have like the credit card option, but I do one thing is like, I charge credit card people way much more, 20%. And they go, wow. And I go like, just send me, some lighting. And they say, how do you do that? And I said, I immediately take them to Strike or one of those things. And so I have like, some people have been curious about it. And they asked me, so I've gotten people curious about Bitcoin because I'm receiving Bitcoin payment. So it has worked really well. More and more people are just paying me with Bitcoin or with layer 2, which I love. So I love it. When it came out, I immediately signed up, and I think it was like a month. I didn't have anybody, and I was telling people like, are you sure you want to buy something with it? Because I just wanted to use it. But it works perfectly. It works really beautiful.
I agree. I was using Ibex, and Parker and Will called me, and we talked, and I said, it sounds great, but I didn't want to switch because I'm lazy. I didn't want to go in there and make the changes to switch. But when Ibex pulled out of the US, well, then it was not a matter of wanting to, it was a matter of having to. And I tell you, to me, like I said, you do have the options of credit card and Bitcoin payments. Since all my customers are pretty much Bitcoiners anyway, I pretty much just keep the same percentage for that. But the big difference is when I would bill someone for being a sponsor, and they say, send me an invoice. I'd send them an invoice, and then the next day they say, hey, I want to pay in Bitcoin. How do I get that to you? And I'd have to go through another conversation with them or something, and send them another message with an address. Where now, on the ZapRight invoice, they want to pay in credit card, they click one button. They want to pay in Bitcoin, they click another button. I don't have to talk to them again about making payments. So to me, it's a great service, and I recommend that highly to anybody. And this isn't a commercial for them, it's just that I believe in it.
I know we're just talking great stuff about Bitcoiners doing great stuff. So another thing that I like is some Bitcoiners want to be completely anonymous. Like people have been buying the book. And so I was able to also put that option where they don't have to give me any information at all, at all. They just pay me, and then, they send me in a different way their information without any name or anything, just like a PO box number. And so I don't know anything about them. And I think that that's really very important, that you have the choices to customize even the way that you're going to put your items in the cart. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now, one of the things I'm curious about, what is your opinion on this? What do you think are the biggest obstacles Bitcoin has right now? Are there any obstacles? I mean, I don't think Bitcoin can be killed personally, but I think there are obstacles that could slow it down.
Well, I feel that, again, people come to it for different reasons. But I think that as long as Bitcoiners keep on going further down the line, the line of evolution of what Bitcoin can offer, we have to do a lot of work. So I feel like getting more awareness of other parts of ourselves can actually help Bitcoin being expanded, because we only focus on the price and get, as you say, by the beginning, get scared and then we get out. If we focus on all the levels of what Bitcoin can offer, we're talking about a state of being, a state of mind, a state of consciousness. You just start building this ecology. And I like, for instance, what's happening in Nostr. They're building so much up because thanks to censorship and stuff. So I think that when we have challenges like the ones we already having with government trying to shut it down, this is when we can become more creative to find other ways so we can make this really happen. So I don't see the challenges as a bad thing. I actually see them as a motivation and an opportunity to actually find another way. So, because I don't think that Bitcoin is going to die. I mean, it will have to be, I don't want to say something like a terrible disaster in the world, like, something falls into the earth and we all just boom. But other than that, the resilience of the Bitcoiners, we're also trailblazers. I think the Bitcoiners are made out of something different. We know that doesn't work. We know that we're willing to risk stuff in the unknown. So we have that as something like embedded in our DNA, so we can go and build a new civilization. That's why I think like studying like how a civilization can operate from first principles is actually a way to know that we can build so much. There's so much to be built. I feel like the next layer is more personal. And the invitation is like, you as a Bitcoiner, what are you willing to give to the system, to the ecology, and how do you want to serve as a human being in the Bitcoin arena? Not so much like what can Bitcoin do for me, but like how can I contribute? And I think that that's very important.
I agree with that completely. And I also think that most Bitcoiners, even ones who've been in it from the beginning, are younger than you and I. We're on the older end for Bitcoiners, I would say. But you're getting ready to have a class of people who have more money than anyone else, that as Bitcoin goes up to $1 million, who have the goal of making everything better. So instead of worried about themselves. So I think that's going to make a big change. Now, we only have like 2.5 minutes left, so please tell everybody where they can follow you at, things like that. Anything you want to let them know, give them information now.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, you can use my website. I have the pre-sale of the book there. You can follow me on all those socials, so Twitter, whatever, like Instagram. I do a lot of shit spot posting, so if you don't follow me. But yeah, I'm here to serve, and I love that you had me here. And Bitcoin is just going to go, and we're going to be better people. I'm sure, but we need to do the work. This is not a passive action. This is active.
I think Bitcoin's going to change the world. I agree with you 100%. I do have another question for you, though, since we do have a little bit of time left. Where's your handle come from, Monika Bravo? I know Monika. Why Monika Bravo?
That's my last name.
Oh, is that your real last name? Bravo?
Yeah, bravo. And I hated it when I was little because I was always in class and people were like, bravo, bravo. And I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. So I was embarrassed by my last name. And I used to say, my name is only Monika. Don't call me by my last name. And then when I came here to the United States, I don't know, like, or even in Europe, I lived in Europe and people would say, guys, say bravissima, like, in Italy, like, you're so brave. Like, and I was like, oh, maybe I should just turn this around and use it. And this is actually my last name. So yes, I am Monika Bravo.
Very, very good. I love that story. I became a Bitcoin boomer because everybody was giving boomers a hard time. And I said, I didn't do anything wrong. So I said, I'm going to go with that. So I jumped on the boomer bandwagon and said, I'll not only talk about being a boomer, I'll be the Bitcoin boomer. And it's the same thing. I wanted to approach it because I was hearing all this stuff. Well, Monika, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been interesting getting to find out your backstory and thoughts on Bitcoin. That's one thing good about this show. I do get to meet people on a different level rather than being in a car with them for a while or at a conference. So I really do appreciate you coming on the show. And I will see you in April at BitBlock Boom if I don't see you before then somewhere. Who knows? We may run into each other somewhere before then. So thank you very much for coming 100%. On the show. And have a good week, a good month, and a good year.
You too. Thank you, Gary. Big hug. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor. So please stay tuned. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I hope you enjoyed today's show with Monika Bravo. Monika is a good friend who I've known for quite a while, but I've never got to talk to in much detail because every time I've seen her, we've been at Bitcoin conferences doing a lot of stuff. So it was great talking with her. I want to thank my great producer, Stephanie. Stephanie, what'd you think of today's guest?
Monika was amazing to have as a guest, as an artist. I don't know if you have that often on the show, but it's really cool to see the tie-in of her value system around sovereignty and freedom and how that works out really well with Bitcoin and how you can be your own, what's it called? You're autonomous, you're you hold on to the money yourself or the value or the asset.
Right, yes, yeah, she's great. And I couldn't believe the size of her artworks.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're huge. I mean, it's like a whole wall in an airport terminal. So bravo to Monika Bravo for being such a great artist. Hey, before we go, I do want to tell you about a couple of things, a couple of updates. Make sure and check out my Bitcoin conference. I mentioned it during the show, bitblockboom.com. It's bitblockboom.com. It's in April in Dallas, Texas, and this is our 8th year, making it the oldest Bitcoin conference by far, oldest Bitcoin conference on the planet. So do check that out. Also, if you're in Dallas-Fort Worth area, make sure to check out our meetup at meetup.com/bitblockboom. That's meetup.com/bitblockboom. We, once a month normally, have a barbecue meetup where we all get together, about 30 of us, talk about Bitcoin, eat barbecue, have a beer. So do come check out meetup.com/bitblockboom if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I have people who've come from Oklahoma, from Louisiana. So if you're anywhere that can get here, you'll enjoy it for sure. And I also want to make sure you check out our book, Bitcoin and the American Dream. I also mentioned this during the show at bitblockboom.com/books. That's Bitcoin and the American Dream. We have a great book. I wrote this with 8 of my friends. We all stayed in an Airbnb for a week and wrote this book. And it's a good book. You can read it on a flight somewhere, so do check that out for sure. I also want to make sure I tell you again that you share this show with your friends. I can't say that enough. You know, Bitcoin, I believe, is going to, and many people do with me agree, that it's going to change the world. And if something is going to change the world, you need to at least be aware of it and know what's going on with it and just not accept things that you hear at random about it. So do check out Bitcoin, learn about it, share the show with your friends, help them learn about it. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and for your friends, in my humble opinion. So until next week's show, remember to stack those sats.